So that would be then a good place to move on to the next slide, when I'm going to talk about once the formalities are in place, you're in a reasonably good place to start doing what you should be doing. That's designing. Now I will recognize. Now I do recognize there is a measure of cajoling and keeping the project momentum flowing that the architect needs to do in order to keep the projects alive and under control. Now when I say alive, to keep the projects in existence, because it can slip if you don't keep things under control. This is nonetheless a good and sometimes necessary investment of time, this project briefing and meeting, etc. When it comes to securing that big prize project and making sure all the parts are in place and you are adding value to the project for your client. Now I just want to take another minute here just to highlight the fact that if a client sees that your approach to things is a bit raggedy and a bit disorganized and a bit, not too sure about what you're doing, it doesn't inspire confidence. I can assure you, if you are demonstrating that you're taking the projects and leading by the scruff of the neck, it inspires confidence. And you have to get into that frame of mind, to succeed in winning projects and managing projects in a successful way. So usually around the same time of finalizing the briefs, I think I referred to this earlier, finalizing the brief for a client's approval, I will also seek to formalize my terms of engagement with a simple exchange of letters for the first time. Now this is after the brief is done and before you do any sort of concept design stuff. You've done your initial feasibility, you've worked with the client on stage 0, 1, 1, and you're doing that on a time charge basis with a simple exchange of letters. So depending on the nature of the project and the politics that prevail, believe me, politics do prevail in a project, and you have to mind your P's and Q's there to make sure you step on the right toes and shake the right hands, as it were. I might also submit my full architect's appointment to cover the entire project, and this is all the work for all the work stages, that is up to 6 and 7. Now the lifespan of the project can be influenced by planning decision outcome, and whether the client wishes to continue with the project will it's either because a planning permission will not be forthcoming after all your hard endeavour and the client's perseverance, but with the planning permission achieved, the client decides to sell on the project. And I mentioned that also earlier on. Whilst you should always try to make sure you are novated to the new owner, there's no guarantee, however, that the new owner will continue with your professional services, because they, sometimes have their own architects, and that's their preference, that's their gift. So your architect's appointment should include the briefing document information, including the sketches, and the client has already approved. Of course, I remember I mentioned that the sketches, they're all approved as forming part of the briefing document, and the specifications, of course, that you might have referred to, or any of the products or services, products or systems rather, the client might have asked for specifically. It's incumbent upon you to investigate that, interrogate, to make sure that's a viable proposition. So with your client's appointment completed and the project brief in place alongside it to cover the extent of the work, that's your work, your architect's work that is required, you will then engage on work stage 1 as the first milestone. And that will be followed by you undertaking concept design development then, and prepare and make a planning submission. So there's a process there that you're going to follow. With your architect's appointment in place, of course, your client is clear about what to expect from you in terms of your role and responsibilities as the architect stroke lead design consultant. Now, just to clarify for you again, have a simple exchange of letters or a formal agreement in place with your client, setting out what your architect services will provide and what the fees that you will be charging and what they will cover for the various events to be completed. The early stages of the project, usually follow a set pattern, and this is sort of a culmination of what I've been saying in this video so far. So work stage 0 is really the strategic brief and just planning. The client is thinking. You may be involved with that, you may not be, sometimes you are, and just the strategic planning associated with the project. Work stage 1 is really where you come into the mix, and that is discussing the project with your client, and you formulate a project brief. You do the brief preparation with your client, and you get it signed off by the client. And then work stage 2 would be your concept design development to completing a design solution. And also within work stage 2 is preparing and making a planning submission, which is the final design solution. But within that, you, of course, you'll be going through a pre-planning application, which I'll discuss. Now, the client is also very clear about his or her role and responsibilities to the architect also. It's a contract, after all, between you and your client. Now, this is where the architect needs to be. If ever they have to explain their activities to an ARB complaints committee. What? Complaints? From who, I hear you saying. So I will discuss that topic in the later videos, but if you do look after managing your project correctly and making sure you've got your letters of appointment, initial letter of appointment, or a full architect's appointment in place, then you are good to go. You can sleep at night, and that's important. If you can go through your architectural career without your client finding themselves having to challenge a party connected with the project, or a party connected with the project seeking to challenge your client, I would say you've had a successful career, because it would be down to how the projects are managed and documented. Now, I've got a final word that I think is very important that I want to mention. Just a big thank you from me also for watching. I'm so grateful. I hope you found it interesting as well. You can watch further videos like this by subscribing and hitting the bell. I think there's a process for that. That way you will be certain you will get notified when the next video is published. Oh, hang on a second. Mario has just nodded to me just now. I've just told him you've already liked it with the button. Now, we've created an article on this video as well. It would be very useful reference to have at your fingertips. I'll put the link in the video below. Okay guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Bye for now. Have a great week ahead. Bye.